It's time to start your engines and be part of the conversation. You can always ask the experts, Raffi and Dan Rosenberg, because it's now time for Clutch Radio. The show starts now.
Good morning. Holy moly. As I always say, I can't believe it's Saturday already. It just keeps happening every 7 days, whether we like it or not. It is July 3rd, 2021. It's 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and it is Independence Day weekend.
That's right.
And happy 4th of July. I guess you do say happy. This is one of those that you can say happy for.
Well, I think it's okay to say happy, yes, because
there's certain things you don't say happy for.
Right. And what would be really funny is if the British celebrated it and called it Happy 4th of July as well.
Good riddance day.
Good riddance to you guys.
Yeah, last year, obviously, the pandemic was fresh and they canceled all the 4th of July festivities. And locally, we did a car parade. We drove around the island here.
Yeah.
And I drove my friend's MG.
Oh, that's right.
That has a British flag on the side.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, I'm from the losing team. Hey, everybody, it's me. I'm from the losing team. So at least we represented the losers, which I think was good.
That's good. And after 200 years, I don't think it's too soon.
Yeah. And what I want to talk about today is independent cars.
Oh, there you go. Great.
I thought that'd be a great topic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And obviously all of them started independent.
Yes.
But there aren't too many left.
No, that's true. There certainly aren't.
As far as major brands right now, I can only think of two.
Oh, okay. Which two do you think the major brands are?
Well, Tesla.
That's a major brand now.
It is. Well, they have sold more cars. The Model 3 has outsold all the other luxury entry-level cars.
Okay, but that doesn't make them. I mean, if you're going to do on a dollar per company basis or volume basis, then I think Tesla is certainly up there, but they're nowhere near Toyota, Honda, or Nissan in terms of volume production.
True.
I think Toyota is pretty much up there. They were number one, but now the Chinese, although China doesn't have a single market manufacturer that I think is bigger, but as a country, China is now the leader of automotive manufacturing.
Right. And when I say single brand, I'm kind of saying like General Motors obviously is not, it's a brand, but they've got multiple brands.
Yes.
Toyota has Lexus and they have different things, and Honda has different. I'm talking about one company. It's all they have. And I went with Tesla because they're the newest. Polestar, not independent because they're part of Volvo and Geely.
Right. Tesla, I think the distinction that you may be trying to make with Tesla, and I absolutely agree with, is that they are the only successful independent automotive brand in the world, because all the others that tried post-war to be a successful independent brand failed within 10 years. The only exception was Shelby American, which ran as its own independent automobile corporation for almost a decade, from 63 to 71. They were almost a decade.
Yeah.
And that was very, very difficult even at that time. There were other independent manufacturers. Kaiser was an independent manufacturer. So was Fraser.
And then they merged, right? Kaiser Fraser.
Yes, they did. Very good.
And then you have Tucker, obviously.
Tucker was an independent manufacturer. They only made 52 cars. I think 2 of those were the prototypes, so we call it 50 cars. Right. Some say 48 cars, but we'll call it that. DeLorean was an independent manufacturer. They were able to build cars in the thousands, which is very admirable for any
9,000 or so.
Yeah, which is quite good, but not as many as Jensen. Jensen was an independent automobile manufacturer that built several different automobiles. And so if you look at the numbers post-war, there are quite a few automobile manufacturers, including many of the cottage industry British manufacturers, like the one you drove in the parade, MG. And MG, I believe, was under the British Leyland brand. which was sort of the similar thing to the General Motors with other sub brands. But you have TVR, which was a major manufacturer of sports cars in the UK, Aston Martin, which for a long time was an independent brand until they were purchased by Ford.
Right.
Well,
that's and I looked up something today. I didn't realize this, but Mazda is actually an independent brand now.
It is. For a long time, the largest majority shareholder or share owner was Ford Motor Company.
Right.
And Ford and Mazda worked together, did shared platform engineering. They are now independent. I think they've been independent for 4 years.
I think so. Maybe a little longer, but I mean, yeah, because you used to look like the Mazda, the little SUV was basically a Ford Escape. Their pickup truck was a Ford Ranger.
Right. And I believe their first shared platform with Ford was the Ford Probe and the
MX-6. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was in the 80s.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of independence out there anymore. Everything kind of, becomes a conglomerate and they all just kind of, merge together and
Yeah. And there are some micro independents. I would imagine that a company that's building, let's say 10 to 15 cars a year, there are a few of them, but they tend to be very expensive automobiles.
Right.
And or you get into some of the independents which are enormously expensive, like Pagani or McLaren. And these are independent automobile manufacturers that are building multi-million-dollar cars. So
yeah, and then you've got some electric companies like Lucid and Rivian that's making their truck.
Yes,
they're definitely out there, and Fisker.
Yes,
they're still around, but overall, the independence of the auto industry is very, very small.
And why is that? Why do you think, Dan? Why?
I think a lot of it is cost.
Sure.
It's very expensive to do it on your own.
Yes.
And, in studying the Polestar, which I've been talking a lot about, and people are probably sick of hearing about it, but they would have never, they're going to be able to be a player in the electric car industry only because they've got Volvo and Geely behind them.
Exactly.
Geely, of course, being a huge Chinese conglomerate and a huge Chinese maker.
Sure. And this is exactly what was the reason behind Shelby's success as Shelby American, because he was backed by Ford Motor Company, because Ford allowed his success through enormous cash infusion from their racing department. And it was cheaper for them to be a part of Shelby and see Shelby grow as an independent than it was to try and build it in-house. And so you see opportunities like that with a lot of different micro brands or small independent brands. For example, with there's an Italian car company called ISO, and they built the ISO Grifo, and the Grifo was a V8 American powered car, just like the Ghia 450 SS. They only built 50 or 60 or so of those cars, and those were powered by Chrysler engines. And there's a whole bunch of them that took advantage of American powertrains, so they didn't have to tool up for engines and suspension and brakes, which tends to be expensive stuff. And
now you've built a car.
I have built a car,
and it's not easy to build a car, or to, I mean, if you were going to start, let's just say today, money's not an object. You are given an unlimited budget, and they say, we want to start the Raffi automobile.
Okay.
What's your first expense to be an independent car buyer?
The first expense as an independent car guy is talent. That's the first thing. The most successful independent car companies are driven by talented, passionate car people that are there to build cars. They really are fueled by the idea of making automobiles. It's not a numbers game. It's not we're going to make them for 30 grand and sell them for 60 grand and all become millionaires. That is just not, that's the first thing. So you gotta spend the money on the talent. You got to find that talent to do the right things for the right reasons. and not be driven by becoming internet billionaires, because you will not be a billionaire. If someone came to me and said, I've got $20 million to invest in a car company, what should I do with it? I'd like to start my own. I would tell them, if you want to invest in a car company, buy one that already exists, that has some existing platform, existing engineering, and we'll staff it with designers and engineers to help improve and make newer cars or better cars from that. The second biggest investment would be in the lobbying, the safety, the engineering, infrastructural type stuff that you have to do. Hire a team of engineers that know how to write proposals for getting government money, because that's where you'll get the biggest amount of cash infusion, is from the government. If you can build cars that show some interesting safety features or have some dynamic fuel cost or fuel savings.
I've given you a blank check, though. You don't need government money. We don't want to get the government involved.
No government. Oh,
no. If we get the government involved, then the bureaucrats and red tape.
Then it's the answer is just two things: talent and technology. If you can harness the talent and get a hold of the technology, and you have a blank check, then absolutely, those are the only two things you need to build a successful car company. That's it.
And what kind of car would it be? Would it be a sports car first, like a lot of them seem to do, like Tesla did and DeLorean did, or would it be a mass-produced car?
One of the best things about building your sports car first is that the sports car will do a lot of self-marketing right off the bat. It's easy to sell because it's everybody's dream is going faster than the other person. And so that would be the halo car. And by starting with the halo car, you gain a lot of traction, a lot of Instagram action, a lot of chatter in social media, and a lot of talk about your company. And if you can build a premier car, then chances are you can build other cars as well. So I would probably start with that. I would, because of the technology, I would certainly build a hybrid or a fully electric high performance sports car. It would also, thank you, Eric.
Eric would like to place the order now for the 2025 Raffi Roadster.
I would also, I would very, very cleverly make it a secondary purpose or dual purpose vehicle. In other words, most sports cars end up parked in the garage for a great deal of time. So I would make it the type of vehicle that you could park in your garage, not take anywhere, but also use as a sitting point, position point for active driver training or racing simulations. So instead of building a simulation thing in your den, you could actually go into your garage, sit into the car, not drive it. It stays stationary, but it has active dynamics when it goes into a mode where it might jack it up a little bit so that it has cornering capability. It might have sound. So it would be a dual purpose. It'd be an entertainment device that's stationary and also an automobile you can take out and drive. So you don't have any loss of training skills and things.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like putting the wheel on the back of the bike to make it a stationary bike. Then you take it off and you go drive away.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And since so many people are playing as much as they are driving, and with your car in the garage and in a lockdown entertainment mode, your kids can use it. So it becomes a fun sort of thing that you get an 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, and he gets used to doing the driving simulation inside the vehicle. Then when it comes time to actually drive, he's got actually some transferable skills.
Well, there you go. The Raffi Roadster coming soon to a shopping center near you.
There you go.
Now, if you have questions please put them in the comments. We already have a few. Gary has some questions that I think we might have the answer for. He's got a question about one of his warning lights, the tire pressure light. He says it should not be coming on. The tires are the proper PSI, checked by the shop that changes oil a few weeks ago, and the light still comes on.
Yeah.
Is there any way he can fix that? Well, actually, it is a sensor in the tire, correct?
That is correct. Your tires now, modern cars have tire pressure sensors. They're built into the tire uh, uh, tire module. And they're built, I believe, they're built around the valve stem area. So tires now and tire shops can replace those because they do become faulty. They will give false readings. To me, the tire pressure sensor indicators are the scourge of the contemporary automobile world because they are constantly going out. I have the tire pressure sensor indicator on my Lexus. That is going, and that is the warning I am seeing. And it's on the dash. It flashes when I start the car, and then it stays illuminated and annoys me the entire time I'm driving the car. The tire pressure in my cars, I checked the tire pressure in my tires. They're perfectly fine. There's no damage to the tires. They're not leaking. But I'm not going to go to the tire shop and spend $80 to $100 to have them replaced because they'll tell you we can't just replace one. We have no idea. Now, Gary, you can take the car to your local shop and you can ask them to clear the code. $60 replaces all of them at Discount Tire, according to Ray. That's good news, Ray, because that's the cheapest I've heard, and that's pretty good to make it go away. Unfortunately, Ray, as you know, within a year or so, it's typical that they go out again. Now, Gary, you've got a 2005 Lexus. That's good. So if it hasn't been a problem during the life of your car, that's a long time for that for those tire pressure sensors to be functioning. So I would then suggest, after maligning them for going out too soon, I would then suggest, Gary, the best thing to do is to take it to a tire specialty shop like Discount Tire and have them replaced, and that should do that. But before you do that, go to any shop, might be the shop you normally go to, and have asked the mechanic to clear the tire pressure sensor indicator code. They'll plug the computer into your car. Your car will talk to the device and it'll punch out the code. And then there's a sequence to clear that code, which the mechanic can do. And that most shops, if you're a regular customer, they'll just do that as a courtesy. And then if the sensor indicator comes on within a few more miles, then you know that it is most likely a faulty sensor, or there's entirely the possibility that you may have a slow leak and not be aware of it. So it might be picking up that.
Yes. Now, excuse me. There's also Ray says, by the way, could be each or could be all four. He's not sure. So it's possible it's $60 each. That would suck. $240 would be kind of pricey.
And that's too much. I mean, 60 for all of them is what the price ought to be, because these things are so pervasive and the technology is not complex. The labor is the thing that takes a fair amount of time. But the reason why they will sell them for $60 for all four, or should sell them for all four, is because most people are generally not going into the tire store to have those replaced. They're going to throw them in when you buy a new set of tires. Gary, if you do go to a tire shop, be ready for them to sell you a new set of tires, or for them to tell you that, you know, your rear tires are really low and those are the ones that are most important, not the front ones for wet weather, and wet weather's coming up and you should buy them now because prices are cheaper now. When the wet weather starts to heat up or get more into the later months, you're going to spend more for wet weather tires. So
Gary wants to know if there's a way you can clear the codes. Yes, you can buy yourself a code reader that resets the codes, and that would most likely reset it. If it doesn't, a trick I found to get it to reset pretty quickly was I just put air in all four tires, and it kind of tricked it.
Yeah, now you can overinflate your tires. And when I say overinflate, 32 to 34 is normal inflation. And when I take a long trip in my car, I will fill them up sometimes 35, 36, because you'll get better fuel economy with higher tire pressure. And tires can take 36 PSI, no problem at all. So what you might want to do, Gary, as Dan said, is you might want to pump them up higher than the 32 and see if that automatically resets it, or will reset or re-trigger. The other thing you can get, your car is an OB2 code reader. You can get a code reader. They're not very expensive. And plug it in. It's in a little receptacle on your car. It's under the dash on the left side, and there's a panel you remove. It's fairly easy to remove. It's not screws or anything. It pops out. And then you plug it into that, and it'll give you a reading. It'll also give you a reading, a diagnostic on other aspects of the car, which may not be warning you yet. So,
yes, and they're cheap. I mean, here's one that's $20.
Yep.
This one might not reset though. There are some that do, some that don't. So you want to check to see if it does actually reset.
And some cars, some of the newer cars will not allow certain readers because some of the newer cars are very expensive and they don't want people mucking around with the software. But your car, I'm sure, Gary, your car will take a standard OBD2 reader, and you can use that. I wouldn't necessarily get a $20 one. There are ones that are a little bit more expensive, and as Dan said, the $20 ones might not reset. They might just be informational indicators.
Yes. Now there's the OB2, which is the newest one. There's the original version. And then the one you don't want to get is the OB1 Kenobi. That one, because you go to plug it in, there's nothing wrong with your car, and it's like, all right, there's nothing wrong here, and you just keep driving, and it doesn't matter.
These are not the codes you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. In my car, I'm going to brag for a second. If mine comes on, I can basically tell it, no, it's these tires are where I want them, and I can hit a button and say, this is the correct tire pressure, and it will just not come on anymore. But yeah, these come on, and it is annoying. You can't change it yourself. Yeah, you have to take the tire off the wheel usually, unless it's
and there's no more. When I was a kid, I could change the tire on our Hudson. We had a 49 Hudson. I could take the tire off the car, and I could deflate the tire, and with a pry bar and a screwdriver, move the tire off the rim. It was hard work, but you could do it because the sidewalls were so flexible. Now there's no way.
Yeah, and you had inner tube in that, right?
Yeah. There was an inner tube. You'd take the tire out, and then you'd heat up the inner tube. You get it hot, put the glue on it, put the patch on. You'd patch the inner tube. You put it back in the tire, stuff it all back together, put it on the car. 2 hours later, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're exhausted, but the tire's fixed.
Yeah. And now you need one of those huge machines, and they put the bar in it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's because they're very expensive and they're very rigid sidewalls.
Now, Gary's next question, if I use the OB2 reader to reset the codes, will that affect other codes that shouldn't be reset? All codes should be reset because you shouldn't be pulling any codes. That's
right. Now, when you plug it in, Gary, what you'll get a specific readout. Now, there'll be a guide in your owner's manual for it as to how to key in, but it's very simple. It's not a complex thing, and it will show you. It'll give you a list of codes that it's picking up. And as I said, some of them may not be known to you yet. But don't worry about those. You'll be able to line in and sort of scroll down to the tire pressure sensor indicator. You can hit that. It'll then give you information solely on the tire pressure sensor indicator. And it may, although I'm not sure, it may say faulty, or it may say the code may be more detailed. But it's going to pull it up and tell you that this is a problem. And then you'll have a function down below that you can toggle to for reset. And then you can clear that code. You can hit reset. It'll be done. You'll look confused at first because it'll go back to the main screen. You'll wonder if that's what was supposed to have been done. You'll unplug the unit, and then you'll start the car, and you'll see that it's gone away, and then you'll smile happily. However, 5 miles later, it may come on again, and you'll curse us for having spent $45 or $50 on a reader.
Yes. Yeah. Typically, the only time your car does a code is if something has a fault. Right. And a lot of times it's an O2 sensor. It's some weird sensor you've never heard of. A lot of the codes are like P033. I mean, you never know what it's going to be. Right. So the owner's manual is a good place. Sometimes they're not all in there, though. Sometimes you get one, you go, well, that's not even in the owner. Google is your friend.
Yes.
Just Google the code with your car, and it'll say, this is exactly what it is.
Yeah. And keep your phone handy when you get your screen readout. it'll stay on the readout for as long as it's plugged in. It's not going to go away. But grab your phone and get a screenshot of the screen, because, as Dan said, you can then later go back in the house and pull up the.
You could do it from your phone. Even.
You could also do it from your phone, absolutely, and check on all those codes. And Gary, how many miles on your '05 Lexus, and which Lexus is it? That's going to also help.
Okay, let me guess before he even puts it in there. I'm going to guess it's an ES 330 with 172,000 miles.
So I think you're thinking ES 300. Could be a 330.
Was it 300 or 330 that year?
05. Well, you're right. It might be a 330.
Maybe a 330 already.
So you're going to guess. I'm guessing he's got an 05 LX 350.
Oh, the big one?
Yes.
Maybe an RX.
Oh,
I don't know, Gary. What is it?
RX.
Let's find
I'll
out.
say RX 350.
Oh, you're going to RX? And how many?
Yeah.
Which is what you have. How many miles do you think he has?
I think an 05. I think Gary's a driver. He's I'm guessing he's got 109,000.
Well, that's not a driver for an 05.
That's what I'm going to figure.
All right, Gary, what say you? He probably left already.
He's got it.
We'll just sit here and wait.
He's Googling tire pressure code.
Janice, by the way, says good morning. She still has that red Ford. They haven't put on the market yet. She did send me some pictures of it all cleaned up, that red Ford pickup truck.
Sure.
Get it on the market soon, because I think the prices are about to shift the other direction.
Absolutely, Janice. Take advantage of the crazy that's still out there for used vehicles. People are still buying them. They're paying premium prices for them. That is going to change, especially by August, because.
Yeah, definitely. Because the 2022s are coming out. The shortages are going away slowly.
Yeah.
And Gary, Raffi, you were right. It is the RX 330, only 67,000
miles. Good for you, Gary. That's a fabulous car. That car will go 150,000, no problem at all.
Oh, that'll go 350,000. You
can
drive those to death.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll need a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It'll need some stuff.
Oh, it's brakes, tires, maybe some suspension components. But I had a Lexus LS 400. It went 240,000 miles before I needed to get an alternator for the darn thing. An alternator. It's just, they're amazing automobiles. Lexus builds amazing cars. Ray wants to buy your car already, Gary.
Yeah, he's already. He's drooling. He's turned to Floyd the Barber. Andy. Lexus, my favorite.
And as Ray will tell you, those are low miles for that Lexus, and that's fantastic. It means that you've been driving it, you're not putting excessive miles on it, so your miles are low. So my guess is that tire sensor is probably just gone bad, or the tire sensor, one of the sensors, but it's okay to replace them. But here's going to be the other question. This is a common thing. If with a low mile car, we tend to believe that the tires are still good, even though they may be 8-10 years old. So if you have not changed the tires on your car recently, now might be a good time to get a fresh set of tires, because tires that are 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, even though they might still appear to have good tread wear, depending on the conditions where you park your car, you might benefit from getting a new set of tires. And tires for that vehicle are not exorbitantly expensive. You might spend $600-700 for a real good set of tires, and some new tire pressure sensor indicators. And to me, that's good assurance if those tires are old.
Now, one quick question, Gary: is it all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, or front? Is it rear or front?
It's for that series.
That's a good question.
Front. I believe it's front-wheel drive.
Yeah. So is it two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? We'll go with that. Let us know, and I'll give you a ballpark price. But prices, Ray is saying the prices are definitely coming down. CarMax and Shift prices are going down.
Yep. When
selling to them. The Lexus CT200 sold a Shift a month ago for $6,700. Now the price is only $4,600.
Yeah, and that's just what's going to happen, generally speaking, because we'll have a shift in the market conditions because of the new cars coming up. But as Dan also indicates, supply chain is returning to normal. And
Yes.
Gary's got the two-wheel drive, which,
Yeah,
by the way, I think is the better vehicle. I know a lot of people like all-wheel drive, but for most general automotive use purposes, two-wheel drive is perfectly fine, even in the snow and ice conditions. With modern tires and good snow tires, a two-wheel drive car is absolutely fine.
Yeah, check your tire codes to see how old your tires are.
Yeah,
It's a 4-digit number. The first two are the week, and the last two are the year. So if it says 5206, that means your tires were made in the last week of 06, and they're old.
and that little tire code, those 4 numbers will be inside a kind of little tiny lozenge. So
Yes.
okay, so Gary got tires 3 years ago, and that's perfectly fine. That means that those tires will be good for another 3 years. You might go back and check your receipt and see if they did replace any tire pressure sensors 3 years ago. If they didn't, then you may consider doing that now.
And Gary's car is probably worth, retail about 11.5, believe it or not, because
Yeah,
there's a $3,200 ad for those low miles. But wholesale, like if Ray was going to buy it, I don't think Ray would pay over $9,000. But
no, and here's the great thing about that. If you went to go buy a new one, you'd be out of pocket about 40 to 45 grand, maybe even a little bit more these days. And so you can't get that same car. So 11 grand really means nothing to you, because if you sell it at $11,000 with miles like that, even though it's a good deal for somebody who buys it, because that's what they're going to have. They're going to have a fantastic car for 11 grand. You're selling it and giving it up. You're only opening the door to spending another 30 grand to get a replacement. So this is one of the reasons why I always encourage people to buy a pre-owned luxury vehicle. Purchasing a new luxury vehicle, unless you're made of a lot of money, it doesn't make sense. Now, if you own your own business and you want to have a luxury vehicle because your vehicle presence is important to the status of your brand, so to speak, then you want to lease a luxury vehicle, because the lease is deductible. Talk to your tax accountant, because neither Dan nor I are tax accountants, but it's a great way to spend money on a premium vehicle without ownership, and it is deductible. So buying pre-owned is the way to go. You save a tremendous amount of money, oftentimes 50-60% of the original cost, and you get a fabulous vehicle that is going to give you many, many miles of service, well beyond the 50, 60, 70,000 miles you might already have on the vehicle.
Yes. And now Ray sent me some pictures of some cars he has up at the Stokes public auction this week, or this coming, the next auction, whenever it is. And Ray, who's talking in the third person, says that Ray rarely, where did it go? There it is. Ray rarely buys cars from people. He tells them to shop them a CarMax Shift, KBB, and if it's a crapper, Pedal or Copart. Ray, you're losing out on a lot of profit, I'll be honest, because if they're willing to sell them to those guys, well, CarMax Shift, if it's a higher end car, probably not. But if it's a lower end car and they get a Pedal quote, Pedal's just going to send it to Copart or IA themselves. So
yeah,
you might as well take that Pedal quote and go ahead and add $50 to it and take the car and send it to auction yourself.
Yeah, and most people will not buy used cars because of two reasons. One, fear. Maybe they had a bad experience with a used car in the past, and the other is that they're worried that they're going to have an enormous amount to spend on the car. So what I often tell people is, if you're going to go buy a brand new car and you're prepared to spend $30,000 on a new car, which isn't a lot of money, you're prepared to spend 30 grand. I tell people, look, if you've got that money available, whether it's on a payment plan or something like that, go buy a $15,000 car and put the other $15,000 or the other $1,500 a month or $800 a month, whatever it is you were going to pay, into an account on a monthly basis. That way, when a disaster strikes, you can tap that account and pay for it. The other thing you can do, and this is something many people will do, and it's available through your insurance company, you can buy a second warranty. So you can buy an extended warranty on your vehicle, a pre-owned vehicle, which will be available. And you can spend, Dan will tell you, these are anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. And with that warranty, and it doesn't cover everything, but it covers a lot of the expensive stuff. It's worth getting, especially if the car has a lot of electronics on it. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
Yeah, but you don't. The people that call you, don't buy that warranty.
Yes, don't buy this.
The one like, hi, we're calling from the service center. Your warranty's about to expire. We just want to offer this special. No, don't sell to them,
because those are marked up sometimes 20-30%, and they're basically selling it as a service that they profit from. But buying from your insurance company is a good way to go. And they are available through your insurance company. Many people don't know this. And you don't have to get it the day you buy the car. You can buy the car, you can wait, and then you can get it. And again, you're going to want to check through, make sure you understand exactly what's included in that extended warranty. But it's a great way to go.
Yeah, and you can't buy a warranty once your car breaks down. You do have to own it beforehand.
Yes, that is a detail that
they will not cover things. Now, since the RX 300, 330, 350 series have been kind of focused between Gary's and Ray's, we're going to make this the car of the week.
Car of the week.
So the Lexus RX is the car of the week, and Ray's is available at Stokes. And Gary has a really good question. He said, what do we think about CarMax? And he doesn't trust buying a used car from a private person.
That's a really good question, Gary. This is super important. Gary makes a great point. You don't know who that private party is. You don't know what their history is. You don't know who they are. You don't know how they've treated their car. That's a really good, very, very good point. Most private party purchases I make are from people I already know. I hear about it through the church. I hear about it through my daughter says, oh, so-and-so's dad has to sell his such and such because they're moving. That's how I find out about cars from private people.
Was that a 94 such and such or 95 such and such?
It was a 95 such and
such. Yeah, the 94s are bad.
The 94s are bad. They have bad What's-a-Who's-its.
Oh, my God. An inoculator. Oh.
So buying from a dealer, you do get the purchase experience that includes their expertise. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you could get taken, but most dealers don't want to take you. They want to make a successful sale on a vehicle at a fair market price. Now, they could be motivated to sell it for less. And so you can oftentimes make a deal that way to get it off their lot, or they could have purchased the vehicle at a very good price, and they're going to make high profit on it, even though they're selling it at a good market rate. So absolutely, and the hassle of looking through classified ads or going on Craigslist or eBay or whatever the vehicle is, that's something that does take a little bit of experience and know-how if you do buy private party. But I always recommend people, a great place to buy a pre-owned car is go to your local mechanic. Oftentimes people are bringing their car into the mechanic and saying, I want to clean the car up, get it all nice because I'm planning to sell it. And so they hear about cars that are being sold. Frequently, if you're looking around, you might see a car parked on the street in your neighborhood, or a local gas station or something like that with a for sale sign. Inquire more about the owner than about the car, and say, well, yeah, this is so-and-so. Yeah, they're the manager over at the supermarket. That was his mother's car. And so that's usually a good indicator that you're going to get a car that's been maintained and pretty decent condition. And so you can do a little bit of research there. But generally speaking, as I know Dan will agree, CarMax and other large dealer entities, they want to sell you a good car at a market rate price.
Right. And they're publicly traded, CarMax. So they screw over enough people, they're going to hurt their shareholders. And that's their whole job, is to keep the shareholders happy. Also, all dealers are licensed and bonded. So what the bonded means is they have put a bond up, basically, that if they screw you over, you can then go to the state and say, hey, they screwed me over 10 grand. And the state will basically attach that 10 grand to their bond. And if they don't have a valid bond that's for the full amount, in this state, it's $30,000, which is nothing. It's like half a car sometimes. They're out of business. Their license is immediately revoked until they make it right. So you do have a lot of protection when buying from a dealer, but there are some places like tread.com where you can buy from a private party. And I work there, so I'm, full disclosure. You can buy from a private party, but you're buying through a dealership because Tread steps in as a dealer and actually purchases the car, then sells it to you.
Right.
So you're buying private party cars. You can go, get them pre-inspected if you want.
And Tread is a great place to go because, as Dan said, you get a larger body of privately owned vehicles coming through that dealer managed protocol. So paperwork, things like that. There's nothing fishy about the title. There's no title skipping. Everything's put together legit and above the board, but you get a larger level of inventory. And Tread has great inventory. I periodically go there and just take a look at the inventory to keep up on contemporary prices for used vehicles. There's some good stuff out there. And Dan's pulled up the Tread.
Right off the bat, there's an $800 Honda Civic.
There you go.
$16 a month. We should not have a payment on that one. I correct that.
$16 a month.
No, you can't get that financed.
I know some 12-year-olds that can buy that.
Yeah.
That's my allowance.
Yeah, but you got quite a few cars on here. And Raffi brought up a really good point when buying through private seller. We verify at Tread that the person listing the car is the legal owner.
Legal owner.
They have to give a copy of the title. We do a reg check in all the states that we're in to make sure they're the legal owner. If they're not, we pull the car off. And you do not want to buy a car, especially a private party. If the guy bringing you the car, you go meet him at the parking lot at the Starbucks, and you're going through and you see the title and it says, Margaret Smith, and this guy's obviously not Margaret Smith. Well, who's Margaret Smith? And he'll probably have a story. It's my mom. It's my aunt. I'm helping her sell the car. All right. Well, I need her. I'm gonna pay her. I'm not gonna pay you. Exactly. So is there a way because that person most likely bought the car on Craigslist from some old lady named Margaret Smith, and they're just flipping it illegally. Because by law, you have to register it in your name, pay your taxes, and then you can sell it.
And that's title skipping. And here's the thing. Not only does the seller have some legal implication to that, Dan, you might know better than me, but I'm pretty sure the buyer, there's significant risk because
there's risk only because you don't really know who you're buying from.
Right.
But legally there's no risk. It's not like buying unless the car's stolen, then you could lose the car.
That's the other component of it is it could be stolen. So you never know for sure. And the other thing you also want to make sure is as a private party buying, put the price you paid for the car on the paperwork. A lot of people don't want to pay the additional tax, the sales tax on it, so they undervalue the vehicle. No, I didn't pay 15 grand. I paid 9 grand for it. And that's problematic because it's a federal crime. It's tax evasion. So you want to be sure that you don't do it. It's
Trump organization. Yeah, there's certain people that you can legally get in trouble for tax evasion. It's what got Al Capone finally.
Yes. A clever young female attorney came up with the strategy for that.
Yes, and good for her.
Yes.
I mean, that's a good way to go. Now, a couple other things in the comments, then we're going to get to old school. But Gary said, would you prefer to negotiate with a salesman or the no haggle policy such as CarMax? It's really personal preference. I love to haggle. I mean, it's more fun when you go in to buy a car. But sometimes you don't look a gift horse in the mouth, as the old saying goes. If it's a good deal, and I've got friends that do this, they're like, hey, I've got this car. The sticker price is $38,000. The dealer's willing to sell it to me for 30 grand out the door. I think I can get it for about 25. What do you think? Right. I'm like, no. 30 grand out the door is like 26.5 is what they're selling you the car for. Yeah. So if you can actually get that 30 tax and license included, you got a fantastic deal. Do not even ask for anything else. Although I always like to throw in, after I help people, I go, all right, only thing at the very end, before you shake their hand, say one more thing. I need a hat. I would like a hat with the Chevy logo on it, or a hat with a Tesla logo on it. And then usually they'll laugh, and you can usually get a mug. You can get one. You have to win.
Have to get a win. I want something. How about the extra floor mats? Can I get extra floor mats?
Floor mats are pricey. Don't push it, Raffi. Come on. floor mats.
Listen, it as Dan said, it's all about personality. What do you like? I like to do a little haggling too, but like Dan said, at some point you just got to go, you know what? That's a good price. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And
I did that. I did that with the Polestar. I was like,
yeah.
hey, there's a $7,500 federal tax credit. The last time I leased a car that had that, an electric car, they took that off the price of the car. Come on, guys, let's go. Let's do this. Because when I figured the payment with that, it was like, this is like a $200 payment. This doesn't make sense. And they said, well, no, the reason that we're giving a 63% residual and basically 0% APR is because we're taking that 7,500 and applying it. So I was like, and once I did the math, yeah, I'm done. I'm good. Let's go. It just made sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Ray has another good point about CarMax. They are their own bank. So if you have pretty crappy credit, they're still going to finance you.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good to know. I did not know they had.
And they make their money on that. And also you can negotiate things like warranty and other accessories. That was one of the biggest scams in the world when I was in the car business was, you know, if you have people negotiate like crazy on the price of a car and then they go, oh, you know what? I want to get leather put in. And then the dealer goes, all right, that's $4,000. All right, great. $4,000. I mean, it cost the dealer like $1,500. And they're like, okay, great, whatever. Oh, I want wheels in the car. Okay, great. $17,000. Okay, great, whatever. They don't negotiate that. Or here's a warranty for $49.95. No, that's okay. I'm good. Now, Ray did mention that is one of his guys that works with him, Jeff, who's doing Turo, got a bunch of tickets in the mail from those light cameras. So now he's responsible. Actually, you're not responsible as a rental. Well, maybe you are. When I had my rental car business, all I had to do was send the contract saying that the car was under rental at that time. And the person that rented it, you give them their information and they go after that person. So we did have that happen. People would take, they go on the bridge, they go on the 520 bridge here or the Tacoma Narrows bridge and they just drive right through. We get the ticket in the mail.
Yeah.
And we would just send the contract. Here's the person, because we got their name, their address, or their driver's license. We got all of that. And there are other services out there too that you can subscribe to that you just automatically ding their credit card if you're a rental car company. I'm sure Turo has something like that where it is a headache, but he's not responsible is what I'm saying. If he can prove it was going on.
Seems like there would be some sort of built-in protection for something like that.
Now, Janice popped back in. She apologized for putting in a comment and not being out here to hear the response. But get that truck on the market is what we said, Janice, because the market's about to flip and the truck will not be worth as much. But she said she's working on a 20-foot truckload of pet livestock food to supply donations up the Canadian border to assist communities that have been and are being evacuated due to wildfires.
Yeah.
So if you have a local, anywhere you are in the country listening to this, if you can help donate to that, there are wildfires going on. The smoke's about to start coming into our lives down here. We went through the heat stroke and now we're going to have smoke coming around. So, and have a great July 4th. And she's Canadian, which means her July 4th is July 1st.
That's right. Good for you that you know that.
I know that. Isn't it weird that their Independence Day and ours are only both in July? And
coming up on the 14th is for France, the Bastille Day.
Oh, yes.
The storming of the Bastille. 14 juillet.
Ah, oui. Is that offensive now? I don't know. I might have just offended all the French people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
I apologize. The show's been canceled due to the French people with their freedom fries.
That's us with the freedom fries.
Oh, that's right. That was us.
All right.
Gary says that theirs is July 1st because of the conversion rate. Thank you, Gary.
Look at Gary. He's a comedian also.
Zing. All right. We're going to go old school.
All right. Today we're going to go old school. And this is not too old, but that's okay because it's a car that when you see them in person, you realize how really clever they were when they came out in the early 80s. And this design actually dates back to the late 70s because it took several years internally for General Motors to finally give the Pontiac division the okay on the Pontiac Fiero. So 1984 was the first year that they offered the Pontiac Fiero, very clever car, mid-engine configuration, and originally conceived to be a sports car, but the internal brass did not like the idea of a car that would compete against the Corvette. So they suggested that instead of it being a performance car, they reposition it as a fuel-efficient commuter car that just happened to have 2 seats. So the Pontiac Fiero was introduced in 1984, and the first model was the base model that was available. They had the 4-cylinder Iron Duke engine, which was put in the car, and it was very, very successful, much more successful than Pontiac had imagined. And very quickly after that came the Formula version, which had the V6 engine, which was what the car was originally intended to have, was a higher performance engine. And before you knew it, by 1988, the Pontiac Fiero platform had wider tires, much better suspension, and the V6 engine, which made it a very, very potent and capable automobile. So the GT Fiero, which came out, was not only a stylish looking car for the time, it was also a pretty handy performance car. Today, to get a mid-engine V6 performance car with a manual gear shift in any automobile brand is going to cost you several $1,000s, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000. Porsche, which is a mid-engine with a manual gear shift, 2-seater, a Porsche will set you back 30, 40, 50 grand buying used. But you can get a great looking American-built Pontiac with a mid-engine, and there's the GT Dan has just put up. You can get a Pontiac GT for around $10,000 to $15,000 if you want to get a really nice one that's either very well maintained or has been partially restored. You can buy a very nice one for under 20 grand. Super show cars might be 20, 25 grand, but they built a lot of them. So many of them are available. They're very easy to work on. They're not expensive. The body panels are made of sheet molded compound. So they're like fiberglass. So they're lightweight and they're fairly easy to work on. Body and paint is fairly simple. Notice that there's no chrome on the car at all, so you're not going to have high costs for restoration of chrome. The interior, you can redo your seats very easily in either leather if you prefer having leather in your car. And most of the components are available. All of the engine components are available. And as Ray points out, you seldom see them on the road anymore. So when you do see them on the road, they're kind of a surprising and fun car to enjoy.
And Janice's mother-in-law had a red GT.
There you go. And these are cars. They're not hard to drive. They're not very expensive, Ray. You can get a nice one for, I'm going to say, $8,500 to 12 grand. And you can pay even less for
Way
them.
less.
There are several out there that are quite a bit less. And they might need a coat of paint and fresh tires, but so what? You get out there and you drive in a sporty little car that has some great looks, and you can tell the story about an unfortunately defunct brand, Pontiac, which General Motors had to give up.
Yes. And now I've got 2 personal stories about these cars.
Yes, you do.
I own this one right here. This is not the actual picture, but it's exactly what it was. It was a 1986 SE.
Yeah.
I bought it from a dealership that was one of those, I was a young kid. I had crappy credit or no credit really yet. And I believe it was called Good Wheels in Elwood City, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
And they had this sitting there and I was like, holy crap. I went in for a different car and this came in on trade. And I got it right on the spot. I was like, I'll take it. And one of the headlights was stuck up. And I don't remember how I figured it out because there was no real online yet. This is way back when. And there's a button you kind of push. You could reset it manually and it'll come down. And it started working again. And I drove this car and then I started having back problems. My back started hurting.
Really?
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if it was from this or not. And it was also because it was a 2-seater. It was convenient because when people say, can I get a ride? If there was more than one person, you're like, I'm sorry, I can only take one person. Or if you had stuff on the seat, you're like, I'm sorry, sure. I got all this stuff here. Sorry, I can't give you a ride. And when I was coaching basketball, I got this. And then I traded this for I went the exact opposite. I went to a 1989 Oldsmobile Delta 88.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, a white one with a blue cloth interior.
Oh my goodness.
And when I was coaching basketball, now I had to give people rides. I had to take kids to games and whatever. So it was more important to have that car. But I did enjoy this car immensely. So much so that several years later, when I was at the Mecum car auction in Seattle to sell my Marty McFly truck, I saw this one come across the block, and it was one of, I think, 5,200 that were made.
Yes.
They only made so many formulas in 88. It's the last year of the vehicle.
Yep.
It is the formula.
Yep.
So it had all of the GT underpinning. Everything was GT except the body was the standard body.
Yeah.
I loved that car. You helped me change the heater core in it before I sold it.
Yes.
I bought it at the auction. And by the way, if you're going to buy a car, I know I've said this before, sell the car you're going to sell first.
Then buy the car.
And then buy a car. That's the right way to do it.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Because I didn't sell the truck. And I came home with 2 cars. And my wife's like, wait, you went to sell one? Now you've got 2? She never saw this car. I still have my storage unit, thanks to Janice, because I rented from Bainbridge Storage. I have a nice office in a 1,200 square foot space that I kept my cars. And this car never left that space. I took it to Cars and Coffee a few times. I finally put it on eBay. I paid $6,500 for it. I sold it for $6,600 on eBay.
There you go.
But I paid $6,500 plus tax. I didn't have a dealer license at the time. And I also had to pay for a heater core. But it needed nothing. It had under 50,000 miles. I mean, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous car.
And Ray, you can still find them in that price range. And they're out there if you're looking to buy one. And that's the whole point of Old School, is to get people out there looking at some old cars. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a unique car, something you can have fun in. This is a classic car too now, because it's more than 25 years old. So you don't even have to use it as a regular car, and you can insure it as a classic car. And insurance on a classic car like this might set you back $150 a year for insurance. So you don't have to pay the $600, $700, $800 a year for insurance on a classic car. Same thing with the registration. You can get classic plates, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And insurance and registration being lower cost for a car you're not using regularly. And if you're not putting that many miles on it, you can park it in the garage, use it for pleasure, and 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, sell it for what you paid for it, or sometimes sell it for a little bit more.
Yeah. And there are lots of them. Used to be on Craigslist, you go on, you'd see, 40, 50 of them. I found just today, one. Why is it not copying over? Hold on a second. Let me make sure I get this.
Yeah, and Craigslist is a good place to look, local to Craigslist or in your local area, and then also checking around in various places that it also helps you join a club. There's Fiero clubs all over the United States, and you can often find one for sale within the club.
Yeah, this one's wonderful. Project must go, runs but bad motor, question mark, bad valve, no title. Car is complete, make offer, extra set of wheels and tires. Ooh.
Wow. No title, doesn't run.
Yeah, it's a stick shift. It's got 112,000 miles on it.
So if you buy this car, you're going to want to spend around $400 or $500 on it.
They want $1,500, and I probably, if I went there and tried to get this car, I could probably walk away with $400. I could have this car.
Yeah, and that's okay, because I can tell you that the sum of the parts on that car are worth that, and so you can have some fun if you're mechanically inclined. A lot of times, cars like this, you can put them together yourself. You can just clean them up and sort it out. And even if you're not mechanically inclined, take it over to the mechanic. The mechanic will take a look at it and say, I can fix it. It's going to need $900 worth of engine work, but so what? If you buy it for $400, you're in $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, and the car is running and driving, and you clean it up. You can have some fun, a lot of fun in a car like that for very little money.
Yes, and Ray, I got to go, but Ray just sent me a video. We don't have time to play it, but quick little video of the black Pontiac that I might buy from him for my mom. Tuesday, Ray, I have to drive to Tacoma. Maybe I'll swing by on my way back or my way there and take a look at the one of 97.
Clutch Radio deal. Happened right
Yes.
here. And
One
then
of 97.
Next week, Dan, we'll have to talk about the our next clutch radio vehicle.
I know, because the
Yeah.
Cadillac has sold
Cadillac
and
sold.
the Saab is next. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that next week. And
Absolutely.
Janice has a question. I don't have enough time to talk about this one, but what cars have you not owned that you wanted to own? You know what? I honestly, once I got my DeLorean, I was like, all right, I've had everything. What more could you want? I no longer have it. I wish I had another one. So,
Well, there are a lot
someday.
of cars on that list, Janice. I would love to own a lot of other cars that I have not yet owned.
We can
Luckily,
talk
I'm
about this
still-
next week, really.
Yeah, we can do that. Luckily, Dan and I are both still young, so there's plenty more driving years left in us. But we'll definitely do that in the next show. Good topic for our next show.
Yes, and the DeLorean, the Laugh Factory Comedy Club sent me an email because they're starting a podcast like called Nerdville or something. And like, have you been on a TV show and played a nerd, or do you have all these things? I say, or are you a nerd? And I just wrote back, I used to own a DeLorean, and they wrote me back, you can be on the show. Anybody that owned a DeLorean definitely qualifies to be on the Nerd Show.
There you go.
So next time I'm in LA, I'm going to go in and do their podcast, which will be fun.
There you go. All right.
Ray says he'll leave the keys and text him for the gate code. But what if I want to see you, Ray? You won't be there on Tuesday?
Ray doesn't want to see you.
I know.
Ray just wants to sell the car.
I know. All right. Well, that's the show for today. Somehow we've gone over an hour. I don't know how that happens each and every week. It just keeps coming and going. We don't need to talk about gas prices because they're high.
Yeah.
If you do want any Clutch Radio swag, go to eridanshop.com, ERIDAN shop.com, and you can get some stuff. Happy 4th of July. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
And
if you're out there driving, drive carefully. If you're out there in the heat, be careful. Don't leave your dogs in the car when it's parked. Cracking the windows doesn't help. Don't leave your kids in the car. Be mindful of the heat. Park in the shade if you can. Take care of your car. Heat does a lot of damage to it, but it does even more damage to the people inside. So make sure your car is cool. Make sure your pets are safe, and have a great 4th of July.
And speaking of pets, we don't need fireworks. Seriously.
No fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's dumb. It's
Not
dry
fireworks.
here, especially if you're in Western Washington. Do not go to see the professional ones. That's fine. They're way up in the sky and they're 15 minutes and they're done.
Yeah.
Light them yourself and you're going to lose a finger or something.
Yeah, you don't need the bombs bursting in air in your backyard.
Right.
You know?
And I get paper in my yard every time. I got little rocket leftovers from bottle rockets and my dogs are freaking out. So yeah, the wildlife. I mean, come on.
Nah.
We've had enough bad time.
No fireworks.
Enough of the fireworks. All right. That's all. Goodbye.